Hey, welcome back. Joining me next is Edward Hargroves. He's the co-founder of Goldcrest Farm Trust Advisors. Hey, Edward.
How are you? Thanks for
Look,
having me.
we are in such a special situation right now, and one thing on a lot of people's mind is grocery workers are deemed essential.
Sure.
Farmers, they whatever they produce, we can't live without it, right?
Yep.
But how are they holding up, and how are they keep growing the produce, the all the other grains that we all rely upon?
So from the farmer level, I think you really have to put it into two broad categories. Farmers who produce feed, corn and soybeans that goes in to feed hogs and chickens, and maybe farmers who produce food, rice and wheat and whatnot that goes into human consumption. What we're seeing at the grocery level is a run on demand, a run on grocery shelves for breads, for pasta, for rice products and stuff like that. So you're seeing those shortages, and that's in the news quite a lot. You know, as a result of that, wheat and rice prices are actually doing quite well. Rice prices are at 6-year highs, for instance. On the feed side, though, it's the farmers who produce corn who, with everything that we've seen with, let's say, for instance, coronavirus, but also the Saudi-Russian oil spat, that's hurt oil prices, which has in turn hurt ethanol prices. And ethanol is a big as a big driver of where corn goes. So you're seeing less corn demand there. So as a result, corn prices are down about 15% since March, where the feed side is up.
Yeah, I mean, here's what a lot of people worry about is we go to Costco's, we go to Walmart, we go to different grocery stores that we typically go, and a lot of the shelves are empty. People are afraid, oh my God, what if I can't get anything no matter how early I get there? Do you see there's going to be a food shortage?
So right now we have panic buying. We don't have a food shortage per se. There's plenty of supply in the world. It's just in the wrong places. So for instance, if you took this at a global level, you're seeing some of the big exporters of wheat and rice, Russia, Kazakhstan, Vietnam, places like that. They are, because the US dollar is very strong right now, and their currencies are very weak, they get paid in dollars. They have been exporting a ton, and as a result, their governments are saying, we're actually running out of food, potentially domestically, so let's erect export barriers. Now, when you erect export barriers, and those countries that export food, the US is also one of those, but we don't erect barriers like that. It starts to result in shortages, bottlenecks everywhere else around the world. And that's what we're starting to see is food is in the wrong places.
Essentially, you're telling our people who are tuning in from the United States, we don't have to worry about it.
Don't have to worry about it. I mean, you read a lot of things in the press in terms of like, migrant workers not being able to harvest products, etc. Some of these phenomena are in crops that my company don't do, or they're more global. So we've seen Europeans, countries erect borders between one another, and they haven't been able to get some help at harvest time. For instance, Germany often has Romanian farmers come in at harvest to pick crops. They're having shortages of workers there as they've put up borders. The U.S., is a broader country, broader base of products, and for the most part, we're doing okay, on that side.
Yeah, and you and I and all our friends, well, not all, but just about every single one of our friends, were practicing social distancing.
Sure.
What are the farmers doing? Are they still going out in the field because, you can't stop doing that? How are they protecting themselves?
So, social distancing is, statewide. It's easier in some of the states that, our company operate in because, you're not on top of each other like you are in New York. You have, vast swaths of acreage. So it's a little easier to keep doing your job. We're also in the off season right now, so guys are just beginning to get ready to plant. So for the most part, they haven't had to be out in the fields yet. So it's a little easier than what the rest of us are going through in cities. But look, we all have been hurt by this virus in different capacities. I think though that Midwest states, a little easier than straight in the hotspot of New York.
Yeah. And do you think we have a stimulus package that was recently passed? In what sense will this stimulus package help the farmers, especially the individual farmers?
So I think this could be, really quite helpful from the land and food price perspective. Look, the stimulus package is historic. We've got 5 trillion of stimulus from both fiscal and monetary stimulus within the US, and close to 15 trillion globally. These are unheard of. And ultimately what this means is, we're basically doing MMT. We're going to print money, you're giving out free money, and that often leads to inflation.
Oh, what's MMT?
So modern monetary theory, it's something that's been talked about for the last year or two, in terms of basically countries that can print their own currency. You don't have to worry about deficits. Just hit the printing press, and that can get you out of trouble. And it's what we're seeing right now is, we're creating fake money, tons of it, to try and boost the system, and that leads often to inflation, which is often very supportive on the food side and land prices, because land is a real asset. It's something tangible. It's hard. It's not like, you can't print more of it. It's a finite side. So gold, land, things like that often do well in inflationary environments. And with record stimulus, I think that this could be the case as well, going forward.
Yeah, can you quickly give an example? A typical farmer in Iowa, Indiana, one of the Midwestern states, if he or she, before this coronavirus crisis, what kind of situation was he or she in? And after the coronavirus situation with this stimulus, what kind of lifestyle changes should this person expect?
So right now, for those farmers in the Iowas of the world where they produce corn and soybeans, so not wheat and rice, so that's already a difference there. They're already dealing with low prices. They've also had a number of years of it's been very, very hard. We're sitting on surplus stocks, which weighs on prices. In China, we've had African swine fever, which you might have heard about. So 40% of Chinese hogs have died because of this virus, which means they need to eat less. So that hurts the US farmer.
Pork price went up, yep.
We've had tariffs, manufactured tariffs and trade wars, which has hurt our exports. So they've had a world of pain for a while. And then coronavirus has certainly not helped. It's obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it's hurt the oil industry and the ripple effect through ethanol to corn. It's going to take a while, I think, until we see food inflation, really some sort of supply event, a drought or something to turn the tide for them. This isn't going to happen overnight, that things will be better. Frankly, they could be worse, for a while. We're going to have a lot of corn acres, this current year. And if you expect a normal weather event, a normal season, you're going to still have a lot of supply and low prices. Now, though, the question is, can we rely on regular weather? I mean, we've seen last year was the wettest year in US history. We've had California wildfires, Australian wildfires, and I think that theme of climate change, which is so important right now, is maybe that means that maybe we can't rely on normal weather this season, but frankly, we need that to change the tilt for US farmers right now.
And lastly, for farmers out there, individual farmers, family farming, businesses out there, what is something you think they can do to weather this? It's not exactly within their control, like you said.
So sorry, weathering what exactly? Weathering
Weathering,
coronavirus?
yeah,
Weathering,
weathering the coronavirus, all this crisis, all
yeah,
these price war, the tariff. It's they don't decide the tariff.
exactly. So, it's easier said than done. I mean, if you have a small farm that can grow one crop, and that's the crop that's being hurt, you're in trouble. The general theme I would say is you want to have land, that can grow lots of different crops that you can sort of see which one is performing better than others, move out of it. Hedge your risk. If you can see a price that is somewhat profitable, try and lock that in. Don't try and hope for greater days, because maybe they won't come. Maybe something bad will happen. I mean, the volatility that we've seen in the market has been historic. It's the biggest contraction in global GDP ever, very, very quickly. So I'd say, you want to make sure that you cut your costs as best as possible, your inputs. You want to try and lock in prices, and hopefully also a little bit of luck. Oftentimes, with panic comes opportunity. So one would hope that's the case as well.
Yeah, and we all wish them good luck.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us, Edward Hargroves.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it.